Hello malt mates, whisky fans, I'm Ralphie. Welcome to review number 1115 extras. Extra content, extra opinion, extra advice, extra experience, extra perspective. And in this particular video I'm going to basically be drawing on my experience to provide an explanation as to why I chose to pay a substantial premium, in fact overpay, for a bottle of Lag single malt from the Isle of Arran. And it's because it's a very well matured whisky with loads of character and a very prominent phenolic signature, which I'm really enjoying. However, I paid £87 for this, and I feel that that's too expensive. And the question you may have for me is, hey Ralphie, why bother paying a premium for a young whisky which is going to be around for a while anyway? Why don't you just leave it alone, and you'll probably get more views from reviewing a bottle of Ardbeg or a bottle of Laphroaig? And do you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. But the thing is, I'm not that kind of channel. I'm not the channel that is constantly looking for what's the most accessible, available, popular and fashionable single malt out there at the moment. I'm on a different kind of journey, and my journey is a kaleidoscope, cornucopia, call it what you will, of all the different signatures and flavours you can get, in particular from Scotch single malt whisky, because there's a huge amount of options out there. And when a new distillery comes in the scene, and I do see it establishing itself, I do feel very tempted just to try it, so that I have not just a video commenting on the identity of it, the personality of it, and my opinion of it, but I have a comprehensive channel here which is not focused on main brands and repeat reviews of main brands happening too often. Because sure, it'll get the views. A 2026 update in Laphroaig, 2027 update in Laphroaig. Laphroaig's doing just fine. But I have a problem with Laphroaig, and I'm going to explain it to you right now. And it's not a problem I have with Lag, because Lag's new in the scene. It's a new generation of distilleries, and with this Palo Cortado matured bottling, I now have firm points of reference that I can call on in my memory banks and in my tasting notes on what this distillery is all about, and how soon or not so soon I should be going back for another bottle. I suspect that already this distillery has a notion of heavily premiumising its product. And I think that in that respect, Lag are making a mistake. And we're seeing this mistake already playing out in other new distilleries like Isle of Raasay, where some of their bottlings are just a little bit too dear, and as a direct result, they are now diminishing within the online whisky scene conversation. This can happen not in a few years, this can happen in a few weeks and a few months. Distilleries really need to be aware of this. So, I'm going to introduce two bottles here which are going to help you identify why I'm not rushing out to buy the latest versions of these whiskies. Here it is, we've got Ardbeg and we've got Laphroaig. And these two bottles were not bought yesterday, they were bought decades ago. Many years ago, I anticipated, with the growing popularity of peated whisky as a fashionable single malt, that we would see increased demand and, as a consequence, decreased consistency of quality. And that is certainly very self-evident with Ardbeg. Now, if you look closely at that bottle, have a good look at the label, you will see that is a bottling from the early 2000s. I bought that bottle in 2005. I bought this bottle over 20 years ago, and it's been sitting with a good neck fill, little bits lost but not much, and I've got about half a dozen of these bottles because I bought them to future-proof a positive, quality, well-matured, affordable Ardbeg experience. And I did it for another reason. And that is because when we have good, positive brand experiences early on in our journey, our memory banks are extraordinarily detailed and articulate at measuring and retaining the quality of that experience, which means when we go out and buy the new bottling, which is not get the same quality of maturation, we notice it immediately because the phenolic peaty flavour cannot cover up the poorer quality maturation. And we've seen LVMH take over Ardbeg, and they paid a huge amount of money for that distillery. And as part of their business strategy, they want to make that money back. And the way they do it is by cutting costs. And when you cut the costs of your manufacture of your single malt whisky, it won't really show to someone that's buying the bottle for the first time and has no point of reference. But for someone like myself, who was regularly buying Ardbeg in the early 2000s after the distillery reopened, and when you were getting these fabulous, classic, timeless, amazing, stellar, matured bottlings of Ardbeg. You really don't get them now. And even when you find them, the price premium you're paying for the brand bling is absurd and not worth the money. And we're seeing the shenanigans happening in Ardbeg. There is no dignity and restraint within the marketing messaging in Ardbeg in 2026. There was some restraint back in 2016. But now we're getting these wacky, funky, fun versions of Ardbeg. And they are completely hit or completely miss. And I put it to you, malt mates. So please listen carefully to what I'm about to say. See when you buy one of their poorly matured Duff bottlings, do you complain to them and get a refund, get your money back because they've sold you a faulty product? No, you don't. You never do. And you've got to learn from that. And it's the same with Laphroaig. Laphroaig Select, when it first appeared in the market, was a very nice non-age statement, affordable version of Laphroaig. Now, malt mates, in 2026, you wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. You wouldn't even use it as a substitute for Listerine. It's so horrible. And the producers themselves say, oh, but that's a mixing malt. Mixing with what? Ginger beer, Coca-Cola. These are the only soft drinks that could even absorb just how shabbily, meanly and horribly matured Laphroaig Select is. And as for the standard 10-year-old, you may be noticing it because quite a number of people are, despite the fact that it's heavily peated, that the quality is not quite what it used to be. And therefore people are now turning to the 10-year-old cask strength as the kind of saviour of Laphroaig. And that's acceptable when you're getting into Laphroaig after a couple of years in the whisky scene. But I want to give you my perspective, which is covering more or less 40 years now. From the mid-1980s, when I first had my legitimate glass of 12-year-old Bunnahabhain in one of the local bars in Glasgow where I lived. And it created a tsunami, an avalanche of interest in all the different whiskies that were available. That included Laphroaig cask strength. Everybody aspired to it. It was the preeminent malt monster, peat monster. The dragon of Scotch whisky was cask strength Laphroaig. And then they bought out 12-year-old Cairdas. And it was beautiful. Maltmates, I was there. I bought the bottles. It was magnificent. I still have a couple in my stash, saving for a rainy day. My goodness, there's no shortage of them these days, is there? But now, these whiskies are not what they were. And there's one simple reason. It's an opinion. I'm giving an opinion, and I'm going to tell you my opinion. It's the companies that own these distilleries. They're corporations. With corporations, the quality is not in the product. The quality is in the perception of the brand. These are two very different things. And you ask yourself the magic question. What would Ardbeg actually taste like? Or what would Laphroaig actually taste like if Springbank made it? Ardbeg local barley? I seriously doubt we'll ever see that. Ardbeg matured in active, fresh, ripe casks? You'll be lucky. That costs money. Money that can be spent in marketing. And condescending, patronising, flippant and vacuous messages. And silly concoctions of the Ardbeg name. I just feel so sorry for the people actually at the distillery that work at Ardbeg. They're good people. And they've never seen the reputation of Ardbeg so humiliated as it is now. So disrespected. Ardbeg will never recover until it's sold to another smaller whisky business that actually know and care about what they do. Here's another reason why I'm not buying Laphroaig cask strength now. See this bottling? That's an old label, older label, rightio. These are the bottlings, by the way, you should be looking out for at auction. There's a window of opportunity before the next flush of global monetary inflation. 2026 is a golden opportunity. And a lot of that opportunity lies in getting authentic, original bottles of yesteryear whisky at auction. Go and check it out if you're not already doing so. And it's the ordinary bottlings from yesteryear, which had yesteryear's quality in them, that I can vouch for, because I've tasted these bottlings. I know them. Here's one. Laphroaig cask strength, 57.3%. I've still got the receipt here attached to my little identity tag. Let me give you some details here. I bought this from a supermarket in Britain for, what did I pay for it? £29.74. £29.74. When did I buy it? Because at that price, it's obviously a while ago. I bought it on the 1st of February 2004. Before the malt rush. Before demand was perceived to be outstripping supply, and the only message we were getting from the Scotch whisky industry was, we can't keep up, we've got to double production, treble production. Oh my goodness, everything's becoming so investable, collectible, desirable. Let's pump up the price. And my goodness, that's been a lot of pumping in the last few years. It still is in a number of brands. But this is where you're thinking ahead. This is the value of the stash. And it's also anticipating the value of capturing the really good experiences, knowing that they will directly influence every experience thereafter of every bottle we buy and are informed by. Which is why, as time goes on, you will find experienced whisky drinkers become not disappointed, but just underwhelmed by recent bottlings of big names, which is another reason. It's a practical, tangible explanation as to why more and more experienced whisky drinkers turn to the independent bottlers to get the whisky they can no longer get from the official established versions that used to have a good reputation, but now they're just an easy identifiable brand that simply doesn't try as hard as they used to, and certainly doesn't have this same integrity of respect for whisky customers, real whisky drinkers, who are a nuisance, an irritation, a disruption to the brand message, and a pest to the brand ambassadors who are being asked detailed, articulate and awkward questions which they're in no position to answer at whisky festivals and whisky tastings. Sometimes it's getting a little bit awkward these days. And the whisky industry, there are companies in the whisky industry that are in denial of it. They don't want to confront the elephant in the room. And that is that the people that they spend more and more money on to try and persuade them to buy the brand are just no longer persuadable because they're on a health kick. The fashion is to quit alcohol. And the nuisances, the pests, the anoraks, the geeks, the ones that have the lanyard around their neck holding their glass so they can write their notes down about the whisky, the enthusiasts, the genuine whisky people, that some professionals in the industry don't really like them. They're not comfortable with them because, as I said, they know too much. But even more than that, they know their own mind. And even more than that, they know from practical real life experience what real quality is. And in particular, when official bottlings no longer deliver it. These are the people, the enthusiasts. If you're not there yet, you'll get there soon. Where you realise, no, I'm not buying that discounted bottle of cask strength Laphroaig. I'm not going to go chasing after an overpriced bottle of 17-year-old Ardbeg that everybody knows is a complete failure of a bottling because it was bottled at 40%. Who made that decision? Who is the absolute incompetent who made that decision? Because that is a fundamentally incompetent decision. And the explanation when you get it, oh, it's because the master blender thought it worked best at 40%. BS, patronising, condescending, insulting, downright insulting, misinformed, disinforming flannel. Do not accept it. There are times the best way to walk away from these brands is to divert your attention away from the new bottlings and go and find the old bottlings which are still available for sale at the auction. And you just know, because there's plenty of reference points, that you're going to get the quality that used to be in that brand and that helped make that brand's reputation what it is now at the point that they're beginning to lose it. I'm going to conclude by mentioning Bowmore. Bowmore is without doubt one of the most classic points of reference now to a brand that is comprehensively destroying its reputation. Old versions are absurdly expensive and certainly not worth the money. I don't care what you're earning. Rich people who stay rich, materially rich, are people who do not squander their money foolishly. They spend their money wisely. And Bowmore encourages, as an official bottling, to squander your money foolishly. It's owned by Beam Suntory, and that is a whisky company I really struggle to have any respect for whatsoever. I've seen the damage they've done to Auchentoshan. Their only distillery that seems to cope with the damage is Glengarry, and it's kind of hit and miss there. But Bowmore, the 12-year-old Bowmore, seriously, malt mates, if you want to buy a bottle of disappointment, buy 12-year-old Bowmore. Heavily chill filtered, loaded with industrial colourant dyes. Don't waste your money. There's no point, if you're getting into whisky now, that your first experience is going to be a bad one. As bad as 12-year-old Bowmore. It is a bottling that signals an important message to you. And that is that the company that bottle that whisky don't give a damn about you. They just want passive, inarticulate, dumb consumers who don't know a single thing about quality, but they recognise the brand, and that'll do. Well, we're in the wrong moment in time to have that attitude. We really are. Because these consumers, they've had enough of the disappointment. They start eventually listening to their own palate, which tells them the truth. These are really poor quality brands. And the 15-year-old, it should be 46%, but it's 43%. It's another chill filtered whisky. What is even the point? But hey ho, it's a pretty distillery and it's lovely to visit during Fèis. And you can buy the Fèis bottling if you've got deep enough pockets. But hey, you'll find these bottlings readily for sale at the auctions at the moment, and you won't have to pay what you paid when you were at Fèis. Good luck to you.